Kia ora and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name's Damon and we are back with another gang guide for Necromunda. This time is a bit of a weird one, and it comes completely out of the blue as well, as we pick up a copy of White Dwarf magazine, issue 477 I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I haven't actually bought a copy of White Dwarf since the 80s, 90s probably, when they were really cool. But anyway, this one came completely out of the blue. And many people have been pretty surprised by this, I suppose, and it's a bit of a weird one, I think you'll agree. Now, why is it weird? It's because it's kind of a new gang to the game, I guess, and it's a bit of a departure from Ash Wastes, which is where things are going at the moment. Of course, we've got all the Ash Wastes stuff actually coming out next Saturday. So I've just pre-ordered a copy of the Book of the Wastes as well. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of that and do some squat prospecting and Ash Wasteman gang guides as well, and also look at the vehicle rules and things like that as well. Cannot wait. However, for now though, we're going to be looking at a new gang for the game called To Badzone Enforcers. Now, if you haven't seen this in the latest episode of White Dwarf, issue, then yeah, it's quite a surprising one. I'm not really sure how this came about, but it did, and here we are. So we find ourselves doing a gang guide to Badzone Enforcers. Now, it's worth mentioning that Badzone Enforcers are not an expansion on the current Palanite Enforcers or Subjugators. These guys are an entirely new gang. However, obviously they're very, very similar in a lot of ways. They do have some big differences as well, though. So these guys are basically enforcers, but in the Badzone, as opposed to just general Palanite enforcers. So they're not as well equipped generally, and they have a slightly different way of doing things. These guys are definitely slightly, well, by the looks of it, I would say they're kind of slightly better. But we're going to go into the actual gang now and have a look. So yeah, what are Badzone Enforcers? I suppose these guys, I've already said it basically. These guys are strictly for the bad zones. They are equipped. They're equipped to deal with bad zone stuff, whereas your general enforcers are exactly that, just much more generalist, I suppose, and usually slightly better equipped than these guys. I'm not going to draw too many comparisons because I still am actually yet to do a full Palanite Enforcer gang guide, so I'm going to do that as well after this one, but I thought I'd just do this one first because it's so new and so exciting that it's good to be the first one on YouTube to actually do one of these. So here we go, Badzone Enforcers gang list. So in terms of the gang composition, as we can see here, it's pretty much the same as every other gang here. There must be one fighter with the leader special rule, so that would be your Badzone Enforcer captain. The total number of fighters with the Gang Fighter X special rule in the gang must always be equal to or higher than the total number of fighters without, so that's the same as every other gang there as well. Should it occur during the course of blah, blah, blah. I mean, basically everything looks the same here. Just skipping through it quickly, yeah, everything looks the same here. You've got the death of the leader there as well, so there you go. So in terms of the gang structure itself, it's the same as every other gang pretty much in terms of how you do it. But yeah, getting into the fighter types already here, this is going to be quite a quick video, and I might have to go back to it at some point. Like I said, I don't want to just side-by-side comparison them against the normal enforcers just yet. I will do that at some point perhaps. But for now, I'm sort of just want to go through this actual list that we've got here. So starting off with your Badzone Enforcers captain here. This guy is 125 credits. He has a movement of 5, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 4, strength toughness 3, wounds 2, initiative 4 up, attacks 2, leadership 4, a call of 6, a willpower of 5, which is excellent, and an intelligence of 6. Now, it looks pretty much the same as the Enforcers captain. I'll have another look at the regular Enforcer captain, but I think those stats are the same. It does feel like it's got slightly better mental stats, but I'll have to check that later on. I haven't got the Book of Judgment in front of me at the moment, unfortunately. But this guy, yep, he's your leader. 125 credits is quite a lot. However, you know, he's decent. He's decent. He's about the same as a lot of other leaders. He has particularly good mental stats, but The big thing here is he's only got a ballistic skill of 4 up, which is very average compared to a lot of gang leaders. His weapon skill is decent, so he's definitely geared more towards close combat, that's for sure. So he has the gang hierarchy leader thing, so he has the 12-inch bubble around him for bottle checks and whatnot, cool checks. He also has tools of the trade, which is standard for any leader too, which means that he can be equipped with different fighter cards. And skills as well. You can choose a primary skill, of course, when you pick him in a starting list as well. So there you go. So that's your Badzone Enforcers captain. Just skipping across here to let's just have a look at the here we are. So Badzone Enforcer captain. In terms of the skills that you actually get access to Paladinite drill skills, of course, shooting, and brawn. It's interesting that he has shooting skills, even though his ballistic skill is not particularly great. But it's great to have those because shooting skills are so good compared to a lot of the other skill sets. Brawn is interesting. Of course, you've got, I don't know, probably ball charge is the standout skill in that list. But some of the Paladinite drill skills are excellent. I'll go into more details on the Paladinite drill skills with the actual Paladinite Enforcer gang guide that I'm going to do real shortly. But in terms of the equipment list that you've got here, it is quite different to how the regular Enforcers operate. And this is everything that your Enforcers captain can have access to, which, to be honest, now I've looked at the other pieces in this gang, it looks like pretty much everybody gets the same equipment if they're an Enforcer at least. So for basic weapons, this is completely new to Enforcers, so we do have access to auto guns now. Now, of course, worth noting that the current Paladinite Enforcer box set does not include any auto guns, so you would need to do some converting, but it does give you an option for a much cheaper basic weapon compared to what they usually get, because Enforcers are quite elite normally, Paladites at least, and they don't get any cheap weapons, so that is really the cheapest weapon that you can get, is normally, I think, a stub gun, I suppose. But in terms of basic and special weapons, I think you've got the concussion carbine, which might be 30 credits, so but that's a special weapon. Anyway, waffling on a little bit here, but yeah, auto guns are a big new thing for Enforcers here. Pretty cool. So the next thing we've got is Enforcer bolt guns. Those are 50 credits. Now the difference with an Enforcer bolt gun, of course, is that they have much better ammo. So they have a 4-up ammo instead of a 6-up ammo, which makes them considerably much greater. Bolt guns are already scary because of the damage output. These guys with a 4-up ammo are actually reliable and scary to boot. So there you go. We then have the Enforcer shotgun with salvo and shredder. These guys are basically your your combat shotguns, exactly the same pretty much, but these are 60 credits instead of 70, I believe, normally. And you've also got your subjugation pattern grenade launcher with frag and stun grenades. Now those are the basic weapons for your Enforcer. Now if you notice anything different there, like I do, the key thing to note here is that there is no split subjugator and Paladinite list at all. So you can equip these guys with whichever loadout you want. However, basically that whole rule in the other book, in the Book of Judgment, about how you construct your Enforcer or Paladinite Subjugate Enforcer lists is not here. So you can really give these guys whatever you like and tailor them to however you need. And I really like that idea. It's less restrictive. I think in the Paladinite Enforcers, your leader means that whatever the type of leader you have, whether it's a subjugator or a Paladinite, dictates how your gang is constructed from there. So it does kind of limit things a little bit. This makes it a lot freer. So you can, of course, take a subjugation pattern grenade launcher, which is pretty cool. But you don't have to take the rest of the subjugator gear. So you can mix and match a little bit here, and that is something that I really, really already like about this, looking at it. Pretty cool. So there you go. In terms of pistols, we now have access to auto pistols and plasma pistols, which is completely new as well. So plasma pistols are a great pistol, arguably the best pistol in the game, I would say. It's just for the damage output, I would say. Strength 5 to damage minus 1 or whatever AP is pretty lovely. And then you've got your stub guns and dum-dums. It's pretty standard as well. So moving on. Special weapons, we've got concussion carbines, which I think are excellent. I did that on my... I think I covered concussion carbines in my guide to weapons and stuff. Concussion carbines, the reason why I think they're great is because, well, firstly, they're only 30 credits. They're very low damage output, I suppose, but what they do is they negate the fact that you've got average to poor ballistic skill across the board. So these guys do pump out a sort of 3-inch template, and we know the value of templates from grenade launchers, etc. So they do provide a little bit of backup because they hit stuff even if you miss sometimes. So that makes concussion carbines good. They're also very good on 3D dense terrain, high terrain as well, because concussion obviously decreases the initiative of fighters that you hit, so they're much more likely to actually fall off stuff and hurt themselves, which is pretty cool. So concussion carbines are great. However, I just wish they were basic weapons, and they're not. They are special weapons, but your leader, your champs, and your specialists can get access to those if you so wish. The next thing we have is a sniper rifle. Now, the sniper rifle is slightly different to your regular long rifle. Of course, this is the same sniper rifle you get with your Palanites. It's 35 credits as opposed to 30 credits. Oh, hang on. No, I believe it's cheaper. I think it's... I'm not sure. Anyway, long rifles are either 30 or 40 credits anyway. Maybe 30, actually, so maybe this is slightly better anyway. It's basically the same as a long rifle. The only thing different here is that it has rending as well, I believe, which is actually a really good thing to have because wounding on 6s causes double damage there as well. Now, this is a huge, huge thing, but the next weapon here, as you can see, web guns. Now, web guns are available as special weapons for enforcers. I guess it's kind of thematic because, you know, you're capturing people more with web guns, so that kind of suits the enforcers out in the bad zones doing their stuff, trying to bring people back alive, dead or alive really, and web guns will do that, that's for sure. Now, web guns are broken, in my opinion. Web in general is broken, but suddenly enforcers go from being pretty damn average at best to quite scary, really, with web guns, especially as some pieces in this list do have access to cunning skills like infiltrate, and you've also got shooting here as well, like hip shooting and a web gun. Nasty, nasty, nasty. So you could go down that route of having hip shooting and a web gun, but maybe don't be that guy because people won't like you very much. So there you go. Moving on to heavy weapons, of course, your leader does get no restrictions on the type of weapons that you can have here. So you can have the heavy concussion ram, which I quite like. That, again, pumps out templates. It's quite cool. You've also got the heavy stubber here, which is new to Palanites. Pretty cool, actually. Heavy stubbers are very reliable, decent damage output, decent range, quite nice. A heavy weapon generally, like the poster boy of heavy weapons for Necromunda, really. They've always been around. They've always been trusty heavy stubbers. Everybody likes them. What's not to like? You also get the SLHG pattern assault ram sledgehammer, which is, you know, the same as the Palanite one. It's okay, but it's got a close combat option on it as well, so that does have a shooting and a close combat threat, which is pretty cool. In terms of close combat weapons, we now have access to power knives, power mauls, shock batons and shock staves, which are normal for for Palanites, but just having power mauls is quite cool, and power knives, that's new to them, I believe. And you've also, of course, got your Vigilance Pattern Assault Shield, which are 40 credits, and they're awesome. Give you a bit of extra armour, and they've also got a melee threat with knockback as well, which is quite nice too. So you can mix and match here. This is the coolest thing about this so far. I can give someone a Vigilance Pattern Assault Shield and a bolt gun. That's pretty sexy, would you not agree? Yes, you would. You definitely would. So, war gear, so grenades here, we've got frag, photon flash, smoke and stun. I think that's pretty much the same as what we had for the normal Palanites there. But armour, we've got more armour types available here. So instead of just your hardened flak and your layered flak and your hardened layered flak, or whatever it's called, you've now also got the option to have mesh armour and flak armour, which is cool. Because it's a bit cheaper. So again, you can make this list a bit more min-maxy by making things cheaper if you so wish. And you've also got the access to the good armour too, so that's really nice as well. We also have field armour as well, so conversion fields and refractor fields are available for your leader from the get-go, which is pretty cool. But no displacer fields, unfortunately, which are my favourite. They're awesome. So there we go, moving on to personal equipment. We've got bio boosters, bio scanners, photo goggles, photo lumens, respirator, stim slug, stash. And yeah, infra sights, telescopic sights as well. So infra sights available from the get-go, also really lovely. But another massive thing here, if you look just there at the bottom, we've got exotic beasts. It says hacked cybermastiff. So you no longer get access to your canine police dogs, which are really, really good. Your hardened, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called, but you've got a special type of cybermastiff for the regular Palanites. Now, however, we get the hacked cybermastiff, which for 100 credits, I'm not going to lie, is dog shit. Like, pun intended there. We just did the Orlok guide, and I sort of, I don't know, some people didn't agree with me, but I think the general cybermastiff is terrible. The hacked cybermastiff is even more terrible, of course, because it's far less reliable. So there you go. Moving on. I'm just having a look at the Palanite Sergeant's list here. Basically the same equipment, exactly the same equipment for the Palanite Sergeant. So exactly the same basic weapons, same pistols, special weapons, heavy weapons, close combat. Absolutely everything is the same there. And your Badzone, what's his face? Your Badzone Sergeant, I think, gets slightly different skills here. So there we go. Let me see. Badzone Enforcers Sergeant. Now this guy, of course, we'll just look at his stats quickly. He's 85 credits. Movement 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, so very, very average. He's not much of a champion, really. So stats let him down a bit here. Strength, toughness 3. He has got 2 wounds, so he's better than a Gene Stealer Cult champion, that's for sure in a lot of ways. We've got initiative 4, attacks only 1, leadership 5, cool of 6, willpower of 6, which is both really nice actually. They've got decent mental stats, and then an average intelligence of 7 as well. The Badzone Enforcers Sergeant has group activation 1. Obviously your leader has 2. I might have skipped over that, but we've also got group activation 1 as well. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Your Enforcer Sergeant gets cunning as a primary, which is, I believe, the same as Palanite Enforcers. So you can take Infiltrate and Overwatch, which are both really great skills combined with stuff like sniper rifles and G-launchers and whatnot. You've also got Shooting and Palanite Drill, so the difference with your leader here is that you haven't got Brawn and you have got Cunning, which is a much better skill tree, if you ask me. But the same gear otherwise. So there you go. Moving on to the Badzone Enforcers Patrolman. This guy's 55 credits. And he's just your ganger, basically. So you can take a specialist. Of course, you can take one specialist when you do it. And your specialist has access to heavy weapons, which is pretty cool. So that is, again, just a nice thing to have. It's the same as Orloks, actually. Orloks do have access to heavy weapons through their specialists. Now, the Badzone Enforcers also do as well. However, there is a special rule here called Broken Supply Lines. The following weapons gain the scarce trait while they are used by a Badzone Enforcers Patrolman or Badzone Enforcer Specialist. So it's important to know that this doesn't apply to your leader and your champions. But if you use Enforcer Bolt Guns, Enforcer Shotguns and Concussion Carbines, they are now scarce. So that is a big nerf, if you ask me. Even though you've got better ammo on your bolt guns, suddenly they're scarce, so you cannot reload them. I quite like it from a fluff perspective because it means that you've got, limited supply. Basically, you're out in the bad zones, you've got limited supply. It's pretty cool. It's kind of bad though in the game. I think it will hurt a lot when you do run out of ammo, but I don't know. I mean, scarce. You've got scarce on your things like plasma guns normally. You got scarce on your needle weapons normally. So if you're used to that, then fine. But just take a backup weapon, basically. The thing that I've noticed from this gang list already is that you're going to probably have more credits because you can cut back on stuff, and this gang does not look quite as expensive as previous Enforcer gangs were. It's less elite, I'd say. Anyway, so in terms of your ganger and your specialist equipment lists, it's slightly stripped down from the leader and the champions list. We still have access to the auto gun, enforcer bolt gun and an enforcer shotgun there, but you don't get the G launcher. So you can't actually anymore have shields and grenade launchers like you could before on your on your subjugators. Now that is one huge difference. So if you want to run subjugators in general in a gang, or a whole gang of them, which some people do because they're quite fun, you can't do that with Badzone Enforcers. Badzone Enforcers are pretty different. They're less elite, and they're less variety, I suppose. These guys can, of course, get shock battens and shock staves. They can also have heavy stubbers, which is cool. But they don't get access to the other heavy weapons, the assault ram and stuff, so quite cool. I like the fluff of all this as well. But you can see here the weapons are pretty similar. For special weapons, actually, there's no web gun, but there is a flamer, which is bananas. We've got a flamer there instead of a what do you call it? A web gun. So equally as good. Well, not as good as a web gun, but flamers, interesting. You can take those, and that will negate the fact that you've got very average ballistic skill there. Your specialist does have shooting and palonite drill as the main skills there, or primary skills, should I say. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So already you can see that this list is pretty cool. Now, moving on to the next bit, and this is a fucking huge thing. It's quite exciting, really, because I am that person who is very, very much into outcasts. Now, Badzone Enforcers get these guys. Badzone Enforcer Enlisted Hive Scum. So these are pretty much your Juves or your cheap chaff gangers, and now suddenly you have an Enforcer gang who has a hoarding capacity. So these guys are exactly the same as your Hive Scum that come in an outcast list. They have exactly the same stats. So movement 5, very average across the board with slightly lower mental stats of 8 all around. The 30 credits, and these guys get access to exactly the same equipment that you get for normal Hive Scum. Of course, they don't get access to the way that outcasts do in terms of having a gang background or a house background, etc. But these guys are slightly different. They've got expendable conscripts as their special rule. So fighters with the special rule are drafted in to bolster a gang's numbers, but are not truly part of the gang. They can never benefit from other fighters' gang hierarchy or group activation special rules, which is really cool. So these guys are just scum that you get. You can't activate with them. It's quite cool. And they can never gain XP. So, but who cares? They're 30 credits. You just give them stub guns and you just get them in the way of stuff and make them screen. Awesome. Love it. Other fighters expect fighters with this special rule to be short-lived and consider them expendable. Should a fighter with this special rule be seriously injured or taken out of action, friendly fighters that are within 3 inches do not have to take a nerve test. So that rule there is exactly the same as your prospects on any other house list. So pretty cool. Really, really like that. And that is a huge key difference between, normal enforcers and Badzone Enforcers. So you can see already that this is a completely different gang here. I'm actually really excited to convert one of these gangs up and actually start playing it. I mean, who knows? I might even play it in the next campaign if I can. But really, really exciting. Anyway, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. In terms of Badzone Enforcer Enlisted Hive Scum, it's a bit of a mouthful that. They're exactly the same. They get the same kit. I'll just skip over what that kit is if you're not familiar with it, but they get access to auto guns, reclaimed auto guns, las guns, sawn-off shotguns with solid and scatter, and throwing knives as basic weapons. So you can actually have an enforcer list with a bunch of cheap las guns in it, and what's not to like about that? Pistols-wise, you can have auto pistols, reclaimed auto pistols, las pistols, stub guns. Who doesn't love stub guns? Particularly on these guys. And in close combat, you've got axes, chainsaws, fighting knives, flails, which are my favourite, mauls, which are crap, and two-handed weapons, which are really crap. And then you've got blasting charges, frag grenades, smoke grenades, crack grenades, flak armour, hazard suits, mesh armour, armoured undersuits, interestingly. That is the same as normal scum, but it's just worth pointing out that they do get access to undersuits if you want them, but they're nearly the cost of the fighter again, so there you go. Drop rigs, filter plugs, and telescopic sights too. Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, what's not to like about that? I just think this gang is... I don't know. When I first heard about this being done, I was really, really skeptical. I was like, well, what is this? Is it a completely different gang? Is it an update to... Is it an errata to the already, fairly well-established enforcer list? Is it just extra stuff for the enforcers? It's not. It really isn't. It's actually an entirely different gang, and it's come out of nowhere, and it's surprised everybody. And if you're a player of Necromunda, just having another option is awesome. I've played every gang at some point, and I think this might be my next one. I'm going to have a play with lists in Yak Tribe. I'm actually going to, because you could easily use Yak Tribe to create a list here without actually doing much. You just go to customize and do that. So massive shout out to Yak Tribe, because I've used their customizing functions and editing in there to really good extent with my outcast and stuff, and it works really well. So massive shout out to Yak Tribe there anyway. If you don't use Yak Tribe, go use it. Awesome community tool to have for campaigns particularly. But yeah, this was always going to be a fairly quick video. I'm waffling on a little bit now, but I'm just fucking excited about this basically. It's really, really cool. Again, when I heard about it, I wasn't that, I was like, oh God, what is this and why now? But it's very welcome. It's very welcome, and I'm happy to be able to be here to share it with you first and get the first YouTube video out on the Badzone Enforcers gang lists. Let me know what you think. You know, again, please like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about this, because I'm really excited about getting the conversation started on what you can do and what you can't do with this list. But I really, really like it, and I hope you do too. And that's all from me today. So, and also I just really like to thank my Patreons as well. There's actually a couple of you now. So this whole thing's growing, and it's really exciting. And I'm really loving putting out content for you guys, and I'm so humbled that you enjoy it and that people are getting something out of this, because it means the world to me. And I love this game, as I've said many times. So, if it's making you happy, and then that's great. That's what it's all about. So anyway, that's enough from me. So I'll be back with another 3-way battle report very soon, I think, as I try and defend some of my own territory in our current campaign as we head into the end of the campaign. But for now, peace out.